Hello, everybody. It's 8:09 p.m. Central Time on the 13th of January, 2024. Hope you're doing well. We're here on the Earthquake live stream. It's Saturday night here in the States, and we are sub-zero. Well, we're below freezing. Here in my location, we're at 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like negative 11 degrees Celsius. And we're going down even more. We're not here to talk about the temps, just letting you know, freezing beyond belief. Let's get a display capture turned on so that you can see what I see ever so slightly better. I need to bring you up to speed on what's going on here in the United States. I've got many viewers contacting me. Mainstream media is talking about this. Oklahoma officials are talking about this. Big swarm outbreak in central Oklahoma going up as high as 4.8. Again, we're getting up to that near 5.0 range. A swarm of earthquakes and topping out at that high so far. And I went and looked up the location, and I made a post on this on my community page, showing everybody what's there, or at least giving them the coordinates to the nearest visible oil gas well, which is 1 mile away from the earthquake epicenter. So let's put the coordinates in for the gas well, and then we'll jump back over and pull the earthquake epicenter, or we can just quite literally go 1 mile south by southwest from this oil well or gas well that's here. There we go. There's the nearest one that I could find visually at the surface. And then we have others that are just about half mile away. Up here, we got the tanks, the pumps, the jacks, the pipelines, and protective berms around. And we've got another one right here. So there's not just one, there's like at least three, and the earthquakes are happening right about here. And I can, again, go pull the coordinates. We're kind of all over the place right in this little spot, so maybe spanning out a mile in each direction. Let's get the coordinates for the 4.2, or now upgraded to 4.3, and you'll notice they're the, quote-unquote, the 666 coordinates. A lot of my viewers notice that. I just shake my head when I see stuff like that, guys. It's a long story. I don't even want to go into it, but... So there we go. Here's the first earthquake epicenter. And again, we're 1.01, 1 mile south of the nearest drill point that I could find. This is a wastewater treatment plant here over to the east. And there may be other drill points that are around here that have been capped off over the last several decades. There's been a lot of drilling going on here. Here's Oklahoma City, northeast side of Oklahoma City at the oil and gas wells there. So, forecast called for this, looking for 4.0 level activity plus to strike in Oklahoma. Also looking for activity down in southwest Texas, down by Fort Stockton. And we still haven't seen it, but this is just day one into day two of the 7-day forecast. We're looking for southern Colorado to go. Also, we'll get into what happened up here in the northwest. Yellowstone got hit right next to Yellowstone, mid-range 3.3. So recapping a significant series of earthquakes. Anytime we get above 4.0, we've seen damage, chimneys knocked down, facades pulled off houses, people injured on 4.0 plus level activity. So that's a big deal here in the United States. And the reason we flared back up, let me take you back. We have to actually go back just to yesterday. And the forecast, which we had a 6.0 earthquake up here off the coast of BC, Canada. When that struck, I issued warnings for Yellowstone area, San Diego area, and Oklahoma in particular, 3 spots to watch. And all 3 locations got hit by 3.3 magnitude earthquakes. 3 sets of 3.3s, including Oklahoma. And 2 of them struck just a few minutes apart. So this one struck at 1721 UTC, and this one struck at 1718, like 4 minutes earlier. So first down at San Diego area, 3.3. Then just a few minutes later, 4 to 5 minutes later, up next to Yellowstone. And around the same time, we got a 3.3 first back in Oklahoma that kicked all this off. And I made a post on this over on my YouTube community page, which we can hopefully scroll down and see. It's here somewhere. There it is. So yesterday, 22 hours ago, these 3 earthquakes struck, and it looks like an arrow pointing over to Oklahoma. And that's no coincidence. 3 of the same size quakes. And somebody asked me about it down below in the comments, and I told them, basically the whole plate just shifted from the West Coast to the Midwest in a few hours' time, all on the same magnitude level, 3.3. This is before the big break out in the front, out at the tip of the arrow in Oklahoma. Okay, so then this big break happened. After the big push happened, came through, and this one struck first. The 6 struck off the coast first, prompting me to issue the warnings at this location, and this location. Now, there's other warned areas that are about to be hit in the next several days, and you can go watch the forecast. It's in a 5-part series over on my channel. Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go through and find your area. All right, so where did it come from? Incoming wave, a seismic wave, has traveled across the United States over to Oklahoma so far, and it's reflecting back into itself at this point, meaning that everywhere in between here and here, between the break in Oklahoma and where it came from, is under a serious amount of stress. Thus, we are now watching for 4.0 plus level activity to strike at Seattle, back over here at Yellowstone, back over here in Southern California, down by San Diego, where both sets of rings overlap. And we're looking for a 5.5 plus to strike pretty much right in the middle, right here at Eureka. So this is just phase 1 of what we're expecting to happen on the West Coast over the next several days, over the week. We're also going to look for this to go up to the East Coast. So I've got a warning going for Virginia and Maine, Quebec area, all the way up here. Maine, Quebec, and Virginia, in case you don't know where it is right here along the arrow. And it looks like it's going to be about the same size that's striking over in Oklahoma. So in the 4-ish range to upper 4 to strike in Virginia and up in Quebec over the next week. Should be pretty significant and get people's attention for sure over on the East Coast. Let's talk about what else hit. So you can check Oklahoma off the list. That's, again, we were warning for this. It's been many, many months since they've had anything like this take place. Let's go over and talk about the other spot that was struck that we issued the warning for, which was out here in the middle of nowhere next to Jan Mayen. And this is north of Iceland. Let's just take you back a day, take a look at it. When I issued the forecast, this 4.1 and this 4.5 were on the feed. And we told you to watch at the rough halfway point between the 4.5 and the 4.1 for a new 5 to strike, or similar, something very close to a 5. And what struck? 4.8 to 4.9, struck right in the middle. And the middle is defined by the fracture zones, which I will show you on the USGS map for easy identification purposes. We'll go over and look at the fracture zones so you can see how this is the halfway point between those two earthquakes. So if you were just drawing a straight line between these, you would say the halfway point would be somewhere right here on the back side of the arrow. But if you go around the bends of the plate, we go around over it, makes like a Z or a S-like shape, then we're really right on it. And let me show you on the USGS page. It'll make a little bit more sense with the plate boundaries. There we are. So we're up north and down south. And then the middle point broke in the middle with a new larger quake. And that's the forecast. Now, it doesn't matter because it's out in the middle of nowhere, right? How about this taking place in an area where it does matter, where there are people? So halfway point between our 4.0 in Romania and our 5.0 down at Greece, struck right at Albania. We also need to confirm that Romania's forecast was, I can't even say it, was fully fulfilled. It's a tongue twister. Get a sip of my coffee. 4.0 earthquake fulfilled in Romania, and it's now 3.8. Also, Poland hit, and going right next to Austria, or northeast of Italy. So, middle points hit between the current earthquakes. Look at the new 4.5, and it is sandwiched in between the 4 to the north, or 3.8 to the north, and 5 to the south. And I mean, it's right where the rings overlap. Let's go back over to the far east, across Asia, and talk about Myanmar and Nepal. They were both hit yesterday, in case you were paying attention to the forecast from 12 days ago now. 12 days ago, I issued a 7 to 10 day forecast. Anyway, we were looking for Myanmar, Nepal, and the Hindu Kush region to move, going as far east as as far west as Hindu Kush, and really right here on the arrow where Kashmir is where I was issuing the warning as far too. So really, we got hit all the way across the area. All 3 spots are struck now. So if you were keeping track, Myanmar was struck. Nepal hit directly, 5.0. And then the biggest amount of energy appeared to go to the west and strike over to the west. Let's talk about it on the plate boundary map here. So Nepal got hit right here. Myanmar got hit right here. And up at the tip of the plate boundary, that's where our big break occurred. I was looking for the big break to happen here. So between Nepal and Kashmir, Nepal and Hindu Kush. And the middle of it being North India is where I was looking. Instead, the big quake struck there, and now both spots behind it have been filled in. And the spacing on this is perfect. Equidistant spacing going around the bend of the plate. Look at the plate, how it goes around and down to Myanmar. But the spacing shows it perfectly of a standing wave spreading out across this and dropping off the quakes along the way. Speaking of perfectly spaced earthquakes going across a huge area, check this out. Look at the 5s and greater over the last 2 days. You have to back it out almost a planet away to see it. So this is 5.0 and greater, or let me make sure it's 5 and greater. Hold on. There we go. 5, or now that's 4.9s. Hold on. I mean, even if we add the 4s in, all that does is fill in the halfway points between the 5s. But I just want you to see the 5s so you can see it's significant earthquakes being equidistantly spaced across the whole mass of the planet. And only a few spots need to be filled in. And to fill them in, all we need to do is go down by magnitude. Or a point on a magnitude, 4.8, 4.9. And then you see it. Or hopefully you can see it. We've got 5s going and curling all the way around the Pacific, going back up and around, over to the United States, back around, down, and over and back around. The whole ring of fire, moving on the same magnitude in a course of 2 to 3 days. This is 2 to 3 days. So you should be able to see, but you have to look a planet away. Now, what this means is there's a standing wave, a very low frequency, ultra low frequency, where these would be the points between the waves. So thousands of miles between points on a wave. So wave peak here, wave peak here, wave peak here. Now the new halfway points will be filled in between. And that's the principle of earthquake forecasting, in case you didn't know. Let's go into the far west-southwest of the Pacific, down to the Indo-Australian plate. Aussie, guys, now you're moving as expected. So we saw the earthquake up here. I told you guys to watch out off the coast, and then watch for a spread to come in, go down across, spread out down to Perth, and all the way down here by Sydney, Melbourne, Kangaroo Island, southeast Australia, basically. And now that's happened, and we got the same size quakes, 2.8, 2.6, 2.6, 2.8, and a 3.2 in the middle of it all. Now, if you took these and added them all together, the rough middle is struck by the combined total of what's on all sides. So where's this coming from? It comes from up here, and it goes down across this way. By the way, some people noticed I'm using my old globe here, my old map that doesn't have all the arrows on it. This is the only one I could resurrect out of non-corrupted files after I lost my last computer, guys. In case you don't know, I got totally bombed. They bricked my computers, bricked my internet connections. A lot of, well, who's they, right? Like, okay. Big Brother's got some people that work for him. It's no big deal. I'm just a dude on my own. Now let's go over here and talk about the United States one more time. We're going to watch for the East Coast to start moving at Virginia up to the northeast. We're going to watch for Southern California to be struck down by San Diego. We're going to watch for Eureka to get hit again. We're going to also watch for Seattle. Doesn't get hit every week, month, or even every few months. And all of these should be pretty significant. So we're talking about in the 4-ish range, up to the mid-range 4 level. If it goes any higher, I'm trying to get it within a magnitude. So if I'm warning you for a 4.5, I want you to be prepared for something potentially up to a 5.5, which is enough to cause major damage. And a 4.5 is enough to get your attention. A 5.5, or to maybe even knock down a chimney on a house. A 5.5 is enough to cause infrastructure damage and regional power outages for a long time. Or more. Recapping across the whole planet, people asking me, are we going up or down? I would say this is a little bit increased from where we were over the past several months. The solar activity picked up first over the past several months, and now we're responding with major earthquake increases. But the major is just 7s here, 7s there, where we went months without 7s. And then we went back up to 7s. Now we're spreading out across the whole planet. Don't be alarmed. this is a natural cycle that goes back and forth between the solar activity, the solar wind, the charged particles, and the core of the Earth. So I'm not too shocked to see it after a bunch of solar activity. Here we are a few weeks later, and we're talking about this. The whole planet shifting. Again, I showed it to you. It's not up for debate. This is 2 to 3 days worth of quakes, 4.0 and greater, from the USGS and Geophone Potsdam. So when you see it, again, it tells volumes about the planet shifting, all about the same size, but it starts from here, the West Pacific, and then spreads over to Europe, Iceland, up across and over to the United States, down and across the United States, and up the East Coast. Now, this is the way the earthquakes move. The plates move in the opposite direction than the way the earthquakes move. So the earthquakes are down below, and the plate surface is up above. One's moving one way, the other's moving the other, like a conveyor belt or a vibration. So like your mobile phone might vibrate across a hard surface on a countertop, that the vibrations in your mobile phone that are causing your phone to vibrate across the countertop, if you were to look at it closely, you would see that the vibration's going one way and your phone's going the other. Little weird physical fact there. Okay. Much love. Just wanted to do this video for my viewers in the Midwest. Guys, you got woken up in the middle of the night. All I can tell you, and I'm not gloating or anything, but if you somehow managed to catch one of my saved videos, 1 out of 5, that you could have known that 4.0 level activity plus is returning to Oklahoma, also to Texas, Colorado, and Yellowstone, as well as Southern California, and that it was going to be bigger because the wave that's coming into the United States is bigger right now. It's the first 6 we've had off the West Coast in a few months. Well, they did say we had a 6 a few weeks back, and that was followed by the activity on the West Coast again. That was up for debate on that 6 that struck a few weeks back. They downgraded it to 5.2 or something. So here we are now, and we actually have a 6, and then followed within the day by big movement down at the pumping operations down in the Midwest. Now, let me explain to all the professionals, all the people here who might be emergency managers or people in the oil industry, I am not against oil and gas at all. I drive a Hummer H3, or drove a Hummer H3. It's kind of bricked up on the driveway right now. But anyway, so I'm not against any of that. We see these earthquakes strike next to drill points, whether they're oil, gas, geothermal for steam out on the West Coast, even exploratory drill points for gold out on the West Coast we've seen. It also happens at mines. Any deep earth penetration, if it's going down, from what I've seen, a few hundred to a few thousand feet even, is enough to induce fracturing to come up from down below. But how does it happen, right? There's a very low frequency or ultra low frequency wave passing in this general direction following the edge of the North American Craton. It goes down and back up the East Coast. Let me see if I've got a Craton graphic here. There. Okay. We've got the Craton graphic on the screen. And you can see, I put this out back in 2011, the Craton graphic. Now, the actual graphic of the Craton comes from textbooks, or you could find it all over the place. I just put the arrows on there to let people know all the way back then that I noticed that earthquakes were going in this direction, generally. That we would see a break out off the West Coast, shortly followed thereafter by a significant break in the Midwest, and then the East Coast. And then it follows that Craton, generally speaking. Now, I'm going to turn the Craton diagram off. Just remember it in your mind's eye, so to speak, because we're going to then look at the small quakes. Check it out. For the last 7 days, small earthquakes going across what? Let me turn down the ring so you can see it. Well, look at that. Coming into the diagonal line from the northwest, pointing in like an arrow to the edge of the Craton. Goes down through Colorado, back up through Texas, back up to the New Madrid, back up the East Coast. Keep in mind, I'm using my old arrow map that doesn't line up perfectly with the edge of the Craton. Again, I have to get the updated one on here so the arrows actually match. And yeah, long story on the arrows. It doesn't matter. The arrows just tell you which way to look, like a river. You would watch which way the goes. So now that you know this, you know to watch the East Coast. And you shouldn't be caught off guard by mystery booms and rumbles that start to get reported up in the Northeast. They'll blame it on sonic booms. They'll blame it on everything except for the plate shifting, because all the professionals said this doesn't happen. Top geophysics medal winner from the Pacific Northwest ran the whole network in the Northwest. Dude shows up, this professor, denying that there's any flow going across the plate, even after I sent him just all the stuff. Said it was chance. Chance. Going across the edge of the Craton, yeah, just chance. It's weird, right? That people would deny it, but there it is. So now you can watch for the northeast to start moving again. And watch for the southwest to move. And watch for the magnitudes to correspond. Now, I finally need to drive this final point home for everybody who's listening. It's not one earthquake causing the other. It's not that this 5.9 up here somehow caused this 4.8 down here. Or a swarm in Oklahoma. It's that this 5.9 and that this 4.8, 4.6, whatever, and the future 4 that strikes in the next few days up here in the northeast, all are caused by the wave that is spreading across the whole planet, and it's dropping off all the earthquakes along the way as the wave spreads. And it's somewhat equidistantly spaced as the standing wave is absorbed into plates that transfers across them. So it's not that this quake is causing this quake. It's that both these quakes were caused by a wave that's going across the whole plate. Okay? And now that you get that, you see how powerful the wave is and how big it is. And to see the wave, you can see it signified by the quakes that are dropped off. So what's the spacing on these? There, there, there. It's like 4,000 miles apart for wave peaks. That lets you know how wide the wave is. So what is it, ultra low or extremely low, ultra low? What's the peak distance between waves and ultra low frequency? Again, we'd have to. We get into waveform theory and other things you'd have to be a professional on in your own right. All I know is that the spacing tells us like a standing wave. I'm doing my part to do the discoveries. Other eggheads are going to have to weigh in at some point and stop denying and just get on board. You don't even have to acknowledge my existence. You know that, right? It's okay. I mean, I could go get my community college degree from Harvard. But I'm bumped, burnt. Okay, all right. You guys having a good morning, afternoon, evening, night? I guess we're all on the Truman Show now, right? We're all being watched. Okay, anything else worth mentioning? How about having an earthquake plan? That's probably a good idea, and just to have an emergency kit in general. So whether or not you're earthquake prepared, an emergency kit will come in handy for floods, fires, any kind of natural disaster, and even if you just lose something, you might have an extra set of keys in your emergency kit. But the emergency kit should have a change of clothes, a set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, sanitation, the bare minimums. You might also want luxury items in there, vices, other things that you can trade and barter with. I mean, I would even say maybe have a carton of cigarettes, even if you don't smoke cigs, just so you can trade and barter with people who might. Right? Not promoting vices, I'm just saying. Speaking of not promoting vices, you guys want to see something really quick? Hold on, check this out. This is just phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Look at this. I'm not promoting vices. I'm just telling you this is on Forbes and MSN today. But I hate to say I told you so I'll just say it this way. South Park was right, if you didn't see the episode from 2019. Cannabis has the potential to prevent and treat COVID-19. And this is something I proposed back in 2019, 2020. You can come read the science on it and how RNA receptors are blocked by fatty cells, or the fatty cells get a layer around them and so forth, and it can protect from viruses. Really interesting to see that that's actually come out. And we're not talking Cheech and Chong here. This is something more like where you would, take a breath mint type thing that would, low dose that wouldn't get you anything. It wouldn't make you feel anything. It would be more in a medicinal value that you would eat it and then get it into your system in a CBD, most likely, in a way that doesn't even have a psychological effect. So there are forms that you can just eat, and it doesn't have any effect on you. Well, mental effect, I mean. It will have a medical effect on you by coating your cells and protecting you from viruses. Amazing, right? It's the wave of the future. How did South Park know? This is like that predictive programming stuff with The Simpsons. But since the Simpsons are now pretty much out of there, I guess South Park is going to have to pick up the mantle, right? Okay. Have a good morning, night, evening. I'll be back. We're going to upload this to YouTube no matter how long it takes. I'm going to leave it in a single episode, however long it takes. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon when it's done uploading on my DSL connection. Peace out.